If you are a micromanager who wants to stop micromanagement and start enjoying his life and work and career as a manager, or you are someone who is under pressure and stress because of being micromanaged at work, in both cases, we will provide you in this tutorial with a very practical advice on how to effectively manage micromanagement. And also, we will provide you with a practical framework that you can start implementing tomorrow in order to regain control of your professional and personal lives. So let's get started. It's not only me who thinks that micromanagement is sickness. In fact, some people even called it mental disorder. But for me, I wanted to prove to you that it has a background like any psychological disturbance or any psychological disease. So the point here is that I want to prove to you that micromanagement is a sickness. And I will try to do this during this tutorial. But let's have a brief about this theory, because micromanagement involves a lot of psychological elements. So the person who is micromanaging others will have some sort of lack of trust, irritability, under stress. It is not only that I consider micromanagement as a mental issue, but it leads to mental issues. So micromanagement is a clear risk factor for stress. And if you are micromanaging others, probably you and others will be under stress. And so stress has a lot of psychological consequences, and it's a direct cause of disturbed mental health. Let's start from the very beginning. What causes micromanagement? What's its etiology? What are the risk factors that leads to its development? The main direct causes are still unknown. Theories have tried to explain the risk factors that might be associated with being a micromanager. However, in this tutorial, I will focus on 4 possible risk factors for developing micromanagement. These risk factors, I believe, the most important and probably the most common risk factors for a manager, especially a new manager, to develop micromanagement. If you are a micromanager, it's likely because you have a deep understanding of the job, and that's probably why you were promoted in the first place. Another important reason is that most likely you haven't received any formal training, and no one ever told you how to manage others, and no one told you that your job today is completely different from what you used to do before being a manager. Another common risk factor for being a micromanager is that you yourself is being micromanaged by your boss. And so either you are under pressure or you think that this is the correct way to manage others. And this is a problem. The last cause of being a micromanager that I wanted to discuss today is job insecurity. Some managers feel insecure about their positions or about their capabilities. And when they feel so, they start to protect everything that they have achieved. And this leads them to control everything around them, including the job done by others. And this is a main direct cause of micromanagement. And here are the 4 risk factors combined. One, it's either you are an expert in this job, and that's probably why you were promoted in the first place. And so you think that the way you were doing the job is the best and right way. The second cause, maybe you haven't received any formal training on how to manage others, and no one told you that your job today is completely different than the job you did before. And the third reason is that there is a possibility that the micromanager today is being micromanaged himself or herself, and that's why they think that this is the right way to manage others. Or probably they are under stress and pressured because of the micromanagement status. The fourth and last risk factors we will discuss today is the job insecurity, whether it's about the job itself or the capabilities of the manager. So these are the four most common reasons, from my opinion, that can predispose to having a syndrome of micromanagement. Let's talk about the complications of micromanagement. And in fact, micromanagement has a lot of bad consequences and complications. As always, I will not mention all of them, but I will mention the most important complications and consequences of micromanagement. First, eroding trust. Imagine a team without trust. The manager doesn't trust the employees, and that's probably why he is micromanaging them, and the team do not trust the manager. A very bad environment. Two, there is no autonomy. If you are in such a team, you are not able to do anything from yourself or take any initiative or be proactive because you are not told to do so. And of course, there is no creativity. How can you create in such an environment and in such a team that lacks trust? So there will be no autonomy and no creativity. And there is no growth. So if you are dreaming to be a manager or to be promoted and you are in this team, I think that there is no chance unless the main problem is corrected, unless the micromanagement ends. How can you be growing in a team that lacks trust, autonomy, and creativity? It's impossible. And by the way, the no growth here is for the manager who is micromanaging others and for the team as well. And that's why when we come to the management of micromanagement and to the corrective measures, we have always to consider the risks because we are risking here our career, not anything else. And of course, this environment will impact the business. So there will be no productivity because simply the employees will never give themselves. So if you are a micromanager, your team may obey you. They may follow what you want. They may do it the way you are asking them to do it, but they will never give it from their heart. They will never give it from their self. They will never give it all. And finally, and probably you have all read about it, micromanagement will lead to stress, and stress will lead to mental health issues. And that's why all big organizations these days, and maybe you have observed this during the pandemic, they focus on mental health because stress will lead to mental health. So if you are stressed, you may be impacted and you may have your mental health at risk. So if we know that micromanagement can lead to mental health, are we still in doubt that micromanagement is a sickness that requires medical intervention sometimes? So these are the most important complications that I can share with you now. Lack of creativity, lack of autonomy, no trust, no growth, no personal growth, and no productivity or decreased productivity, and finally, mental health issues. When we talk about micromanagement as a sickness, let's have some focus on a fact. Who thinks that someone who is micromanaging their team is happy? Of course, they are not happy. Micromanagers are not happy. Look at it from a different angle. Yes, they are in charge and they give control, but if you go to the other side of the coin, you will see that the micromanager is probably doing two jobs, his job as a manager and his job as your job. And number two, he is stressed because he's always concerned and worried that things will not be done the way he wants. Three, he is always concerned and probably thinking that you may hide something from him. So he's over suspicious. And this doesn't make him comfortable at work. And this doesn't make him comfortable to take right or to make right decisions. So the micromanager himself is overstressed because of the workload. He is doing his job and also trying to do your job. He is overloaded and have a risk to be burnt out because he is following and doing things that he shouldn't be doing. The micromanager himself is under stress because he is worried and concerned things will not go the way he wants. When we talk about management of a case of micromanagement, we will divide our speech into two parts. The first is management of the micromanager himself, and then the other part, managing the team who is impacted by the micromanagement. When it comes to the manager who is micromanaging others and has realized that something is wrong and they need to change, here, I think the first thing we need to highlight is the importance of self-awareness and reflection. So when you find yourself overstressed, when you find yourself overworried, when you find yourself doing the same thing that you were doing before being a manager, you got to worry. And you got to talk to someone, talk to a friend, or talk to your manager, frankly and transparently, and reflect your concerns, and they will give you the feedback indeed. So self-awareness and self-reflection are very important components in order to address the issue. So if you are doing 1, 2, 3, highlight what can fall under the umbrella of micromanagement and just stop doing them. Try to resist the urge to micromanage others. Leave people to do work the way they see appropriate. And then come to the results and judge based on the outcomes. The other important point, which is a real effective treatment of micromanagement, delegation. Delegate responsibilities to others and leave them to do it from A to Z. And then come and hear their feedback and check the outcome. If they did mistakes, that's well and good. Failure is the first step in order to succeed. And people learn by doing mistakes. Without doing the mistakes and receiving feedback, no one will grow. So adopting a strategy to delegate responsibilities is a very effective way to treat your micromanagement. Do it yourself, other than or better than someone do it for you. Delegate responsibilities to people. This will give them autonomy. This will give them a sign that there is trust, or there is something here being cultivated as trust, and it will enhance the team dynamics and will relieve you from the stress and pressure. Another very important strategy to effectively treat your micromanagement is to get out of your comfortable zone and speak to your manager. Ask for feedback. Seek help in order to manage your team, especially if you are new to the role. If you are a new manager, your boss has the responsibility to coach you and to provide you with the directions that can put you into the right place and enable you to manage the team appropriately. Another important strategy that you have to realize that your job today is completely different than the job you did before. Before, it was you and all what you do. But today you are responsible for a team. It's them. They are doing the job. And you are managing them. And this means that you need to inspire, motivate, and delegate. Inspire your team to do the job, motivate them to give their best, and delegate additional responsibilities in order to have an environment of trust and autonomy. And maybe the last strategy is learning and development. As we mentioned in the beginning, most of us didn't receive any formal training how to manage others. And we learned by practice, and we learned by making mistakes and getting feedback to correct them. So start to learn, because your role requires training and learning. So if you, for example, years ago were a financial person, individual contributor, you probably were very good in math. But today you are responsible for a team of accountants and finance colleagues. So your role is not to do math. Your role now is to manage them in order to do the right math. Your role now is to motivate them and inspire them to give their best, not to do it for them. If your manager is a micromanager and you are probably under stress and pressure, I will tell you what to do. The first thing you have to do is to provide feedback, sincere feedback to your boss. Tell him exactly what you have observed and what is bothering you, and how this micromanagement is disturbing your work and life, and how, because of this micromanagement, you are feeling that you are not as creative as you should be, or you are not as productive as you can be. And don't give the feedback once and not twice. Give the feedback 3 times, and give him time to understand the feedback and react, while monitoring the reaction and any possible change. If this didn't work, you will need to take the next step. And the next step is to find someone who is close to the boss, someone who is a friend of the boss, and talk to him. Explain your feelings once again and provide feedback, and give it this time a little time to see if there will be any changes. If not, my friend, you don't have other options except escalation. You need to talk to the HR. You need to talk to the HR from the perspective that you want the best for the business. You want the best for the work environment and for the team. And then let the HR, and trust me, they are wise enough to manage the situation in a way that wouldn't sacrifice your career. Leadership is not an easy task. It requires a lot of learning and a lot of skills. I hope today I shared something new and shared some insights about micromanagement, and I hope that you benefited from the information shared. Thank you very much, and see you soon.